Coming up on Central News tonight, health and safety laws on the farm have changed. Love Waipa, what you are in for as a resident, and the art of conducting. Kia ora, welcome to Central News for Monday the 17th of November. I'm Hilary Entwistle. Federated Farmers recently held a series of interactive sessions of health and safety on the farm around the Waikato. With changes to workplace health and safety laws affecting farmers, these sessions were about enabling farmers with the right tools and helping them to better understand their obligations as farm owners and employers. Waikato Federated Farmers President Chris Lewis explains why there was a need to hold these sessions.
Next year there's a law change in April 2015. There are already strong laws protecting the employees and employers regarding health and safety, but these laws have been beefing up. So in 2015 in April, WorkSafe New Zealand, they would have tripled their workforce, and they've looked at the stats, and agriculture is number one. We're not number one because we're good at what we do, it's because we're not what we're doing, and that is keeping our staff safe. So last year, it's been reported in the media, there was 18 deaths. In forestry, there was 4. So it's not a good stat, it's not something to be proud of for being number one. So we've decided we'll make some awareness out there. There's going to be some tougher laws come into place. The fines will be anywhere from $500,000 to $5 million. Which makes most people take notice. Also be criminal convictions and possible jail time. So what does that mean for farmers? It means farmers, if they're not doing it already, they need to have some health and safety plans. Not just a book that gives us dust in the cow shed, but something that their employers and staff interact on a monthly basis. They do a bit of training and also be made aware of the hazards.
Can that be done simply by the employer sitting down with the worker and actually having a conversation?
That's correct, yes. You have to sit down and have the conversation. It's not just in passing, put your helmet on. You've got to sit down and have the conversation. What does good health and safety look like on this farm? Because it'll look different from the neighbours. You've got different machinery, different contour. And also you've got the people factor. The people factor is the unknown, and that's why at these seminars we've had a team approach from 5 speakers. One is selecting the right candidate. 2, when you think you've found the right candidate, do some drug testing. And if that comes back clear, offer them a job using Federated Farmers contracts, signing a health and safety document, also signing a drug and alcohol policy. So yeah, once they come on your farm, you take them through the health and safety again, reiterate what looks good on your farm, what's bad, but also once they're there is maintaining that good working relationship you started from day one when you selected them. A professional approach, good communication, and just having that regular conversations.
So what are some of the major concerns around workplace safety on the farm?
I think if you just look at recent accidents, one was in Otahonga, there was a PTO shaft that was uncovered, a guy I went to school with. It was very unfortunate. Also there's four-wheelers. Four-wheelers are very safe equipment, but when you stick a human on there, impatient, might be a bit late for the job, a bit of speed and terrain, they can be a dangerous beast. But in the right hands, a good rider who's been well trained, four-wheelers are just as safe as your car.
Where can farmers go to find out more about the law change and to get help to know what to do?
First thing to do is maybe look at the WorkSafe website, and they've got a document on there showing what farmers need to do to be compliant. But once you've had a read of that, you might want to talk to some professionals out there. First thing you want to do is making sure all your staff have got employment agreements. They're keeping hour sheets. You've got a health and safety policy that has been used regularly, basics like that. But if you've got any sneaking suspicions about your staff, they were a bit late, sleeping in, party all night, then you might need some professional advice. And there's plenty of firms in the Waikato. One we had last night was Ag Results, who spoke to us and about alcohol and drug testing. There's also the recruitment agencies out there who can give you professional advice. Also, likes of Hazardco, Enfed Farmers, they can give you one-on-one advice on how to implement things for your farm.
So why did this law change come about?
Well, back in 2009, I think it was, when we had the Pike River mine accident, you would have seen a lot of media about that, and in the media, all the directors said, oh, we didn't know mines were dangerous. We didn't know being underground, there would be gas explosions and all these other things. We left it up to the managers on the site to run a safe operation. So after that, none of the managers, directors could be prosecuted. They all escaped prosecution. So the government decided they would copy maybe what the Australians are doing and bring accountability right to the top. Not just to the CEO or the managing director, but also the directors. So made them all accountable, and this law changed. So you would have seen in the Phobo Strait when the Easy Rider sunk with 9 people dead on there. The wife, who was the director of the skipper, she was prosecuted in court. And she had 9 manslaughter charges against her, never went on the boat, never had anything to do operationally, apart from being a director. And she probably just signed the cheques, and that's all she did, but she was made accountable. So in any farming operation, there's husbands and wives. Often the wives don't do a lot, most do a lot, but the ones who don't, they need to be aware of the obligations of being a company director.
What are the implications for farmers? Say they have a farm worker who has been asked to wear his helmet, doesn't wear his helmet, has a motorbike accident. Who's liable?
First thing is, when you're becoming a company director, it's not just a cool title to have. There is responsibilities and there is laws out there that could hold you accountable. So if you don't want to be a company director, please don't. But if you decide you want to be part of the partnership or part of the team to help run a successful operation, then you need to be made aware of your obligations. And any good lawyer these days, when you sign these documents, will make you aware. And the basics is having your staff with contracts, hours, health and safety documents. That is just some of the basics that get you going. And once you've got those implemented, then you need to maybe, especially if you've got a larger operation, seek some professional advice. And there's many, many people out there who can offer that. And please don't go to one source, go to many, go to 3 or 4 and have a team behind you.
And a good place to start's Fed Farmers.
Fed Farmers, as well as our speakers we had last night, which is Cross Country Recruitment, KPMG, Ag Results, FMG.
For more details, go to fedfarm.org.nz. Coming up next, Love Waipa. Welcome back to Central News on TV Central. 2014 has been a year of celebration and remembrance for the Waipa district as they celebrate their 150th birthday. As part of the commemorations, Love Waipa has been put together, and as Mayor Jim Milcrest explained to Anne-Marie, it contains 150 fantastic things to do and see in Waipa.
Yes, this is another publication, and it's based on 150 years, a 150-year celebration that's coming at the end of the 150-year celebration. And unlike the book Waipa, Home of Champions, which is really an historical perspective of Waipa, this is more a current, it's a soft-covered brochure book. And in effect, it's covering off 150 great things to do in Waipa. So it's more of what's here today, what's in the future. So it's more of a marketing publication, I suppose. And the reason they've picked up on 150 great things to do in Waipa is because it's the 150-year celebration. There's heaps more to do, but they're the things that they've covered off in the publication.
Who's contributed to it?
The book's really been promoted by the eyesights, both Te Amutu and Cambridge, and they've gone out and got sponsorship from a number of sponsors in 8 different sections, I suppose. So effectively, the book will be distributed freely to the community of Waipa.
Why is a publication such as Love Waipa important for the district?
I think it's a promotional material, really. It's identifying all of those things that people have an interest. It's grouped them into areas of interest, whether it be sports or education or aviation or the field days is there from an agri-business perspective. So it groups all of those activities in sections and just enables people really to just flick through and see what they'd like to go and visit or go and have a look at.
There are 3 cycleways in particular, the Cambridge Greenbelt, Te Awamutu to Kihiki and the Te Awa River Ride. You're seeking public feedback at the moment. Is one standing out more than the others?
Yes, well, we're seeking feedback on a lot of things, and of course it'll be covered formally in the annual plan and long-term plan. And council really needs to consider it alongside all of the other demands for recreational facilities, and cycling has really become the new golf, really, in terms of an activity, and it's certainly growing in popularity. So council certainly supports the Te Awa River Ride from Ngarawahia right through, and of course has been involved in linking Cambridge to Karapiro, and with the Avantidrome where it is, linking the Avantidrome to Cambridge. But of course they're very expensive to form, and the Waipa is, I suppose fortunately, is 2 strong towns in Cambridge and Te Awamutu, and there is a bit of a demand for similar type cycleways on the western side of the district, so maybe linking Te Awamutu and Kihiki and Te Amutu and Parongia. So we have a bit of a challenge to spread our money, I suppose, amongst the district, and very supportive of the Te Awa River Ride, but we just need to have a look and see where the community support really lies.
How can people have their say?
Well, it'll be through the annual plan process, basically, which starts early next year, and council really has to set aside and come up with a draft proposal, I suppose, and puts that out there for public consultation. And at the moment, that draft was, I suppose, promoting initially a link between Te Amutu and Kihi, and then potentially between Te Amutu and Parongia. And then there was funding allowed for a cycle bridge across the Waikato River. Whether that's necessary or not, that's in Cambridge itself, to link the cycleways there. So, but that's further out. It's probably sort of 4 or 5 years away if that went ahead. So it's really a matter of prioritising where our spending goes.
And does the council have a preference as to where they'd prefer to see the money go into?
Well, not really. I suppose the council's here to reflect what the community wants. So in terms of a preference, we've really got to listen to what the public are saying. But I think in the long term, if we were looking at it from an economic perspective, then you would need to favour the Te Awa River Ride as the main driver, I suppose. That's going to attract the tourists into the district a lot more than some of our internal cycleways within the towns. But if we're looking at it from a community perspective, then we have to have an even spread.
Absolutely, and as you say, the linking from Te Awamutu to Kihiki is important.
Well, it is, and you know, in terms of good health, you know, getting kids back on their bikes, riding their bikes to school if they've got a safe cycleway to get from Kihiki rather than along the state highway, then there's some real advantages from that perspective.
Why do you think cycling's suddenly so popular?
I suppose it's hard to say really. It's more than a fad. It's certainly there's huge money being invested in cycling. Obviously successes with their overseas sporting, whether it be BMX or mountain biking or cycling, track cycling, road cycling, they're all being very successful. something people can do individually. They don't have to belong to a club or pay any club fees, and if they wish to go early in the morning or whenever they can just get on their bikes and go. And I think as the population ages, people are getting to the point where the cycleways can be used not only for cycling but for mobility scooters as well. And people get to the point where they can't drive anymore. They can still cycle. It's good for their health. So I think it's a whole combination of things, but it's certainly something that appears to be here to stay.
Love Waipa is going to be distributed to all households in the Waipa district. And to have your say on the cycleways, go to waipardc.gov.nz. Just ahead, the art of conducting. Welcome back to Central News. The Bay of Plenty Symphonia is a community orchestra with members from all over the Bay. They have a concert coming up, so I caught up with the conductor. Now, you are the conductor of the BOP Symphonia. Now, conducting, how do you get into that? Is there a training scheme that you have to go to? Is it like Juilliard School of Arts or something like that?
In terms of training, it's fairly straightforward. Is that at a school of music, like for example, we have 3 or 4 in the country, you can do a degree in performing, which means you play an instrument, but you can also do a degree in conducting. Actually, in New Zealand, we don't have that degree that much, more as a postgrad degree. So it's a matter of spending the study hours. In that sense, it's simple. But before you can become a conductor, inevitably you have to first be an instrument player. So I don't know of any serious conductor who actually doesn't play an instrument. So me, for example, I did a degree in clarinet playing. I actually also play the violin, but that's a bit unusual. And you first have to become proficient at a sort of a professional level, and then once you've done that and you have some experience in the orchestra yourself, you use that to build, if you like, your conducting career. And it's all conductors start that way as a performer, and then they make the transition to conducting. So in terms of actual training, it's quite tricky because if I learn to play the clarinet, I can sit in a little soundproof room downstairs and practice for hours and hours and hours, and I'm not bothering anybody. But if I want to become a conductor, I need an orchestra of 60 players to practice on. And that is where the career path or the training path becomes very complicated, because the opportunity to train with an orchestra is not normally around. So you end up combining it in some ways. You get ever more complexing jobs. You start with small groups, and then you play in front of an orchestra. You rehearse them for half an hour, standing in for somebody else, for example. And then you sort of build it up that way until one day you have your own orchestra that you do as a guest conductor typically, and then later on with your own orchestra. You can do training sessions. I've done a few training programs. I've done one with the NZSO, I've done one with the Auckland Philharmonia, and I did one in St. Petersburg in Russia. But they're quite expensive. Well, actually the New Zealand ones, I have to say, were sponsored, so they were free, which was fantastic. The one in St. Petersburg was quite expensive, because you actually have to pay indirectly for all those players sitting there for your sake, and that's what makes it very complicated.
So with your stick like that,
Yes,
and you're pointing and all that kind of thing, are you actually just timing, you're just keeping the timing and then you're just pointing?
That's one aspect of it, although it's usually a bit exaggerated, that in the sense that it's only a very small part of what you're doing, but it's the most obvious and visible part. What is different from conducting an orchestra and conducting a CD when you're at home and nobody's watching you, is that when you are in front of the orchestra, you lead the orchestra, and that means literally that you're a little bit ahead of them, and actually you're conducting music that hasn't happened yet. And that's one of the trickiest bit of conducting, is that you're in some ways, the music is in your head, it then reflects on what you do with your arms, and then a second later or something, the orchestra plays, hopefully, what you had in your head, and you don't have to match this delay somehow, because you're already on to the next note when they're still playing the previous note. And there's this time delay, which is quite freaky in some ways and very difficult to deal with. And then, yeah, so in terms of what you actually do is 60 players have their music in front of them, they play the notes. But yes, you do have to make sure that they're all together in tempo, but that depends as much on them listening to each other as it does on them watching you move. So in some ways, a perfect orchestra doesn't need an orchestra and doesn't need a conductor, ironically enough, or hardly needs an orchestra, because they are so well attuned, they're so well connected to each other that they play like a chamber group. And your duty as a conductor is to help that, to facilitate them listening to each other. That's the way I like to think of it, rather than to tell them play that note like this or there and then, because that doesn't really work that way.
Sounds like way too much responsibility for
It
me.
is for me too, but unfortunately somebody's going to do it.
The Concert of Classical Music is at 3 p.m. Sunday, the 23rd of November at Tauranga Boys College. Tickets are available via iTicket. Now for our weather for Tuesday. Now for the marine forecast. That is Central News for today. If you have an event or an issue in your community, you can get in contact with us via our Facebook page, Central News TV, or email us news@tvcentral.co.nz. On tomorrow's show, living with diabetes, high beef prices, low dairy payouts, what are the consequences, and the biggest birthday party for Hamilton. Until then, I'm Hilary Entwistle and I hope you have a lovely evening.
This has been an Alpha Media production, a division of Television Media Group.
Supporting local content so you can see more of New Zealand on air.